Here are solutions to homework set number 9 for ECE 211 Circuits 1. This homework set looks at the P operator, RC circuits and LC circuits, basically solving differential equations with inductors and capacitors. Now the first problem is an RC circuit like this. Start out by doing DC analysis. If the input is a constant 3 volts, so here's kind of what's happening, at t equals 0, I have a constant 3 volts coming in. At t equals 0, it drops down to 0 volts. When I do that, I have an initial voltage on V1, V2. Find those initial voltages. Well, at DC, for constants, capacitors don't matter. The current to a capacitor is C dV dt. If the voltage is constant, the current is 0. So this doesn't matter DC, that doesn't matter. And all I have is just a voltage divider. So V2 is, by voltage division, 2.14 volts. V1, by voltage division, is 2.78 volts. And there's a couple ways to do it. Voltage division is one way. But regardless, here's the initial voltages. Okay, so I know that what V1 at t equals 0, let's do that in red. And I know V2 at t equals 0, how about orange? I misspelled V1. So once you know the initial voltages, it's going to be how do they decay down to 0 when the input V0 turns off. And to do that, you need to analyze differential equations. Problem 2 is, what are those differential equations? Now, each capacitor adds a first-order differential equation, and later on in the homework, each inductor adds a first-order differential equation. And they're really not that hard to come up with. So basically, any circuit with capacitors or inductors is described by differential equations, and this is why you take Calc 1, Calc 2, Calc 3, Calc 4. Whole world is described by differential equations. For this circuit, to come up with the differential equations, I want to find out what is the current to the capacitor. What is I1, I2? Because I1 is C dV dt, I2 is C dV dt. That gives me two coupled first-order differential equations. To find I1, I will find the current to the node, and from conservation of current, these two currents added together give you I1. So I1 is C dV dt, is V0 minus V1 over 10k plus V2 minus V1 over 10k over 30k. I2, similarly, is the current from the left, V1 minus V2 over 30k plus the current up. 0 minus V2 over 100k is I2, and that also is C dV dt. So grouping terms, plugging in C, dividing, simplifying, gives you numbers. These are the differential equations that describe this circuit. And as kind of a sidelight, these are coupled first-order differential equations. That's also known as the heat equation. The differential equations that describe this circuit also describe temperature. So what's going to happen is you turn it on, the voltages charge up, they discharge. It's kind of like temperature. You turn on something, it's going to get warmer, going to get cooler. Not going to do anything really, really weird. That's the heat equation, or coupled first-order differential equations. Problem 3. Okay, now that I know the differential equations, solve. Now, one way to do that is use the P operator. P means derivative, so here's the derivative of V1, PV1, derivative of V2, call that PV2. I can now do some algebra, group the terms around, group the V1s, V2s. I'm going to use Gauss elimination. I want to get rid of V1s, so multiply the first equation by 33.3, multiply the second equation times P plus 133, add the two together, and these terms cancel, giving me this times V2 is 0. Again, some algebra, group the terms together, factor it. This gives me two solutions. Either V2 equals 0, which is the trivial solution, or P is minus 32 or minus 144. So I've got two capacitors, I've got two modes. Those are the eigenvalues, those are the modes. So now that V2 of t behaves in this way. That's the natural response. To find the initial condition, I need to plug in my initial values. there's at t equals 0, v1 is 2.78, v2 is 2.14. To find out the derivative of v2, I can go back to the previous equations. Here's v2 prime. I know v1 of 0, v2 of 0, so I know v2 prime of 0. It's going to be 0. So plug in the two initial conditions. There's v2 of 0, v2 prime of 0. So here's v2 of 0, v2 prime of 0. Take this equation, differentiate it. Gives me two equations, two unknowns. Solve, and here's a and b. So this is v2 of t. If I plot that in MATLAB, this is what v2 looks like. In Circuit Lab, I can do the same thing. I build a circuit and I do a time domain simulation. What Circuit Lab is doing numerical integration. I know the voltages on the capacitors. I know V0, that's my forcing function. From that, I can find the current to C1. I can find the current, I2. I know that I equals C dB dt. If I integrate, I get the voltage is 1 over C times the integral of the current. And that's what Circuit Lab does. It does numerical integration. I see the differential equations, keep moving forward in time every, in this case, 400 microseconds. Let it run for 400 milliseconds, and I'll get the voltage versus time. To give it the initial condition, I'm going to kind of cheat. I'm going to use a square wave input. So this is a square wave. What I want is to go from 0 volts to 3 volts. And I call this right here t equals 0. I give it some voltage at t equals 0, ideally spin on for infinite time, turn off, let the voltage decay, then repeat. Circuit Lab doesn't have a turn off function. It's got a step turn on function, but not a turn off. So one way to do that is just use a square wave, make the period long enough that the voltages settle out and reach steady state. And then that's basically the time response that we want. So doing that in Circuit Lab, making the period long enough that I go from 3 volts down to 0 before I switch again. This is the natural response. So I'm going to call this t equals 0 when it turns off. The orange line is V1. The brown line is V2. That's pretty much what we calculated with our differential equations. Problem 5 is now build the circuit in lab. So here's the circuit. There's my 100K, 30K, actually that's the 10K, 30K, 100K, hiding behind that capacitor. There's 1 microfarad, 1 microfarad. Here's my input from my Piercy meter. That's my 3 volt square wave. The Piercy meters don't actually go plus minus. If we give us a 3 volt square wave, they actually do this. It goes 0 volts to 3 volts back to 0. Part of the reason they do that is they don't have a negative power supply, so it just goes 0 plus 0 plus. Works for this problem though. I'll make the period long enough that I'm going to charge up V2 to some value and then watch it decay. Make the period long enough that I reach steady state until I switch again. So when I do that, here's my input. The yellow line is my input, V0. The blue line, in this case, is V1. Just did that for fun. And checking versus Circuit Lab or calculations, the initial voltage is similar and the settling time is pretty similar. So here's t equals 0 when it switches. And here's roughly when it reaches steady state. That's V1. If I go on to V2, here is V0. The blue line is V2. It starts out at 1.89 volts, similar to what I calculated. Starts out at 0 slope and then settles out. That blue line is similar to what we calculated. Kind of hard to tell. Sine waves are a lot easier to record, to get measurements from. The time and responses, it's kind of hard to get information. I can tell you the initial value, kind of tell you how long it takes to settle out. but basically it matches the calculations. Okay, next problem. You can also find the natural response for RL circuits. Now for RC circuits, you use voltage. For inductor circuits, you use current. For inductors, the energy is the current. So for inductors, V is L di dt. So the differential equations for inductors are really in terms of current rather than voltage. So doing that, call that I1, I2. I can find the initial currents. To do that, I first have to find out what is RL. On your inductors, that's built in. If I take the inductor, measure the DC resistance, that's my 7.24, and the inductance is supposed to be 10 millihenries. We don't have an inductance meter in your lab kit, but it'll be close to 10 millihenries. So if I do that, here's my 7.24 ohms, 7.24 ohms. If I were to build it, this would be my model for the circuit. You don't actually build it for this homework set because you don't have two inductors. And you've already done one lab portion for the homework, and that's good enough. But you could build this if you really wanted to. To see what's going to happen, I can first analyze by hand, find the differential equations that describe the circuit. So here I'm going to use current loops. As I go around the first loop, I get minus V0, which when this is 3 volts, minus 3, plus, well, when I did the solutions, I did a different inductor that measures 7.19 ohms. I don't want to redo the solutions. So going with 7.19 ohms. Minus 3 plus 7.19 I1 plus 330 I1 minus I2 equals 0. Going around loop I2. 330 I2 minus I1 plus 7.19 I2 plus 330 I2 equals 0. Two equations, two unknowns. Group the terms, solve. I wind up with, these are the initial currents. As kind of a sidelight, this really wouldn't work too well if you built it. The Piercy multimeter can only generate 10 milliamps, and this draws 17 milliamps. So if this was a lab, I'd have problems. But there's no lab for this portion anyway. If I want to find out what the currents are versus time, what I know is I know I1 at t equals 0, I know I2 at t equals 0. To find out what the currents are for t greater than 0, I need to find the differential equations that describe the circuit. So to do that, I'll say when V0 is 0 volts, when it turns off, what is this loop current? What is that loop current? So doing that, I get minus 0 plus this voltage, that's L di dt, 0.01 I1 prime, plus I times R plus 330 I1 minus I2 equals 0. Go around the second loop. The differential equation is 330 I2 minus I1 plus L di dt, 0.01 I2 prime plus 7.19 I2 plus 3330 I2 equals 0. These are the differential equations that describe that circuit. Solving for the derivatives, these are the equations that I need to solve to find I1 of t and I2 of t. If I use the p operator, pi1 means the derivative of I1, pi2 means the derivative of I2. Group the terms, solve, I wind up with this equation. What that tells me is that either I2 equals 0, or P is minus 13,000 or minus 87,000. Plugging in the initial conditions tells you that I2 of 0 is 8.52 milliamps. From the differential equations, plugging in the numbers, I2 prime of 0 is 0. Gives me two equations, two unknowns. Here's I2 of t. Plug in the first initial condition. I2 of 0 is 8.52 milliamps. I2 prime of 0 is 0. Two equations, two unknowns. Solve for A and B. And again, here's A and B, meaning this is I2 of t. And if I plot it, here's what I2 of t looks like. It starts at 8.19 milliamps and then decays according to this equation. To check, I can throw it in Circuit Lab, build the circuit, and measure the current, which can be either at this point, the current through the inductor, or at this point, current through the resistor. Either one of those is I1. Likewise for I2. Find I1 of t, find I2 of t, and plot it. Here is I1 of t in blue. The yellow line is I2 of t. And that matches up with our calculations. There is no lab portion, but if there was a lab, I should get the same result. Problem with the lab is this is current, and current's kind of hard to see. But that's inductors. So that is homework. And the tricks that we used in this class, current loops, voltage nodes, Thevenin, those are always useful. So getting good at doing current loop equations, getting good at writing voltage node equations, if you get those down pat, you can get through pretty much all the other courses. We can manage through all the rest of the courses. Those are tools we use a lot. There's also Thevenin. Nobody likes Thevenin, but it is useful, especially when you get to electronics. So that is homework set number 9 for Circuits 1.